Hello, everybody, and we are back for another fantastic episode of Printfluencers. Now, we typically talk to, printers and mailers in the industry, people who are, directly tied. But today we have a slightly different format, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Misty Flannery, who actually comes from the staffing and recruiting world. But considering that our industry has about 36% of its workforce aging in between that 56 to 65-year-old range, we got to talk about staffing and all of the issues related to it. So I've brought in an expert to hopefully help us parse out, the different options we have and when it makes sense to use a staffing agency. But Misty, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, Katelin, thank you. And I think this is wonderful to just meet and greet with everyone. And I have owned the agency. I'm a national female minority firm called Misty Staffing, and proud to announce as the CEO, we're celebrating 35 years of service. So yes, there's been some very different, challenging times throughout the years. And 2025 has certainly been a different year for a lot of us, but we're in it together and just happy to be here. So thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think let's maybe start high level and just sort of look at the industry in general. In your view, when you're looking at our world right now, what are you guys seeing in the market when it comes to, staffing and labor?
Okay, sure. I think right now, and it changes month to month, I will tell you. And I'll just zero in specifically on print and technology. That's a big area that we do cover really, really well. And incidentally, I'm still very happy to announce that my team of recruiters, about 80% of them have been supporting me for 15 plus years. So I have a very, very seasoned group of professionals, and they are placing direct hire candidates, which is really our marketplace, permanent hire, and or consultants in the field throughout the United States. So we're all over in North America at about a 98% success track record. So those are some great stats. Katelin, what or where we come in and where we perhaps could partner with some of your colleagues here is that we open up our doors to some very unique networks that a lot of companies are not privy to. So that's where we find some very niche, unique talent that are very successful in these roles. We also offer a very enticing motivational referral program. So a lot of our existing candidate partners will refer other partners over to join Misty Staffing, where we can place with your clients, and in return they get a referral bonus monetarily. So we have all sorts of networks and tools that we do utilize to make sure we get the job done. And what we're seeing in the candidate pool right now, the job market is again, I have to say, very interesting. It's very challenging as companies are laying people off. There's also companies that are in very much of need of finding candidates, and there's a shortage here and there. So what I'm understanding from some of my print clients that I've had relationships for many years is that there is a shortage out there. So they've been hiring us to find that talent, and so far we've been very successful at doing so.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, the 98% success rate in placement is that industry standard, or is that, are you guys meeting the bar? Are you exceeding the bar? Like where do staffing agencies usually even fall? I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm friendly with a few competitors, but to be honest with you, we are very busy. We're gratefully so. There's certain industries that we cover nonstop. So I don't really know where their stats are.
Right.
We're not in the temp market at all. So what makes us more unique than the others is that we do not provide contingent labor We used to back in the day, like 15 years ago. I sold that part of the business off just because we're finding a higher caliber of candidate, higher quality in a permanent role. And I know permanent sometimes is a bad word in California, so I'll use direct hire. It depends on what area of the country we're servicing, but the Midwest, the East Coast like to say perm, West Coast more direct hire. So we are in that direct hire sphere. Now, we will at times bring in what we call consultants, and those can be looked upon, those individuals, as contractors. And they are people that will normally come in on an hourly level. So that is another option if you have clients that aren't in the job market to hire on a direct hire status. We can help you with consultants on an hourly basis. It's full time. So we don't do anything on a part-time level. Everybody comes to us to partner on a full-time level. But the consultant side means they're on our payroll, not yours. So there's a lot of benefits there. But I think what we're really the best in is really partnering with the groups that are interested in building their company with permanent direct hire candidates. That's where I feel that's our sweet spot.
That's the niche. All right. No, I mean, that makes complete sense. So,
Yes.
when I'm going to these conferences and, I'm talking to folks in the industry about, different labor shortages and whatnot, I don't hear it very often where people are thinking right away, okay, staffing agency, maybe that is a tool in my toolkit that I could be utilizing. So,
Okay.
what does that process look like for companies? Do I need to be a certain size or, have a certain budget for this? Where do we fall?
Okay, great question, by the way. And we do work with partnering with all sorts of different companies on not only their size, but their budget. So we're not looking to go over the budget, but our suggestion is that you probably need to look at us as not only a long-term partner, which is what we really are looking for. So we're not looking just to place one or two people, even though if you're small and that's all you need for the year, that's fine. But we're looking to have a long-term relationship. That's what we're looking for. And with that being said, Katelin, we will work within the budget if it makes business sense. I think our fees are very realistic. They're very reasonable. They're right up there with the competitors. So we offer two programs, and about 80% of our clients are taking advantage of what we call our retained program. And the retained program is where we'll ask for just a small retained search fee up front. And what that fee does is it allows us to go into some unique networks that you're not privy on. And it's just real cost effective. That's where the retainer is actually going to, besides paying my recruiter. And then you get a discounted rate once we place the individual with the company. Then you get a very attractive discounted percent off if you go retain. Now, if you go contingent, that means you are not putting any money up front, but once we place that individual, the direct hire fee is going to be higher. And the direct hire fee on either retained or contingent is based on the salary. It's based on the annual salary. So here's a good example. If you were to come to us and say, I need to hire a sales rep, let's just say, I'm just putting that out there. And the base salary is 60,000 a year, and with bonus and commission, the first year could be 175,000. So we would take that $60,000 direct hire salary, and we would say, okay, on the retained search, we're going to offer you 20%. We'll ask you for $3,000 up front. The 20% is going to be $12,000, obviously. Now, if you go over to contingent, it's probably going to be looking at more like 25,000 or 25% of 60,000. Now, those fees, that's really what's in our marketplace right now. We're also creatively negotiable because we rather partner than not. So we work with startups. We work with small to medium size, and we also work with big corporations. Our Donnelly has been a client of ours for many years. So we work with anyone and everybody who's looking to establish the right partnership that shares our same work ethic.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I would not have thought, and this is just my own ignorance, that a staffing and consulting agency like yours would be something that is part of your strategic long-term vendor relationship pool. So it makes sense though, because how else are you going to learn what the company does and their ethos to find the right
Right.
people? So it goes hand in hand. Now that you now that you say it. So, and R. Donnelly, I mean, that is a huge player. I think everyone in the audience knows that name in print and mail. So, you clearly, being from Chicago too, that's a huge player in the print and mail industry, is just that area. So, it does make sense that you've got your hands in that pot. And when you guys are looking at candidates, I mean, you mentioned you're part of these networks. It almost sounds like, when I'm looking for houses to buy as a real estate agent, I have access to the MLS. I can see what's on the market before anyone else does. So
Right,
is it like
right.
the version of the MLS?
It's exactly like that. And my, industry, so to speak, it is like that. We have privy to individuals that you may not be able to see. Here's a good example. We know Indeed is a big source right now that almost every industry utilizes. I love saying this out loud because I'm very honest and direct. We don't use Indeed. That's we haven't used Indeed in years. We find that Indeed works for some people, and if it works for you, that's awesome. We don't like the idea of not being able to get a contact number. So since we're big in the communications arena, we look at all communication. We look at phone numbers. We like conversation still. We go back to traditional mode. We go back to, the 21st century too, and texting and emailing and LinkedIn and all sorts of things. But, to not have contact info, that's not going to work for us. So that's one of the reasons why we don't go to Indeed. The other reason why is because everybody goes to Indeed, and we want to find a higher caliber of candidates. So my recruiters who have been at this for a very long time, they really know what they're doing and they do it very well. So they're constantly looking at different networks. They're constantly looking at different resources on where they can find this talent. And they're doing it in a very timely manner because most people that we work with, or most companies that we work with, they are wanting to onboard somebody like yesterday.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Uh,
yes. And we love working with companies like that because we're not, and no offense to this because my goodness, I sit in San Diego. I love living in San Diego. But my corporate headquarters sits in Chicago still, and we're not a relaxed Californian agency. We're very proactive in the sense that, we'll go with whatever your time frame is. But I think some of the greatest compliments we have received from our California clients is that, especially in San Diego, is that, wow, you really have made a difference in the workplace. And I think it really has to do with our work ethic and just how we partner with candidates as well as with clients, company clients. So we're not the agency for everybody. So, there are candidates that meet my recruiters and they know they're not going to be up to par with our standards. So that's okay, but we welcome every walk of life. We're minority, which means our door is open to every minority race. And as long as you're qualified and you have that character and work ethic, our door is wide open.
wow. Okay. So, all right, for my audience and for me, I don't know a whole lot, right? So if I go to a staffing agency, say I'm signing up with Misty, what does it look like in terms of the process? I mean, how do you get to know the type of role I'm looking for? Because I feel like in this day and age, there are some roles, okay, I need a print shift operator. Great. That's pretty
Right.
specific. But there's so many roles where you're wearing 15 hats. How do you, get out that actual definition of what you're looking for in a candidate from companies? Because sometimes we don't even know what we're looking for.
Right, right. And that's a valid point. And, we are here to help you fill in those blanks. The majority of internal staff that I have, we all either have HR or psych backgrounds. So we're probably the most analytical group out there. So I have a psychology background from DePaul University. A lot of my crew have the HR psych backgrounds as well. And so as a team, we kind of gather together and we really streamline on what we need in order to make this a successful placement. So here's a good example. The process we feel is very, very simplified. We usually ask for a job description, and that job description will help us build the right candidate for you. And then we present resumes once that candidate is thoroughly screened. So here's another advantage and benefit of using our agency. We do all the footwork up front as opposed to you. And we are the job market. We're very perceptive in personality. We know the right questions to ask in the screening process. We do reference checking. And here's another good example that I love that my recruiters have told me this. You can check references all day long and you can only say so much today on that person. But we, as an agency, we can tap into it a little further, a little deeper, and we can ask some other key questions. And we can also read body language on the phone, so to speak, on
Wow.
meaning, we can feel how they're answering this question if this person is going to be somebody they would perhaps rehire. Now,
Got
with all that being said, a lot of these folks that we're doing reference checks on, these companies are more than willing to give us additional data on them, good or bad. So that's another great cue where if you company were to call this reference, they're most likely not going to do that with you. But with us, they will.
Oh,
So there's the other, there's the other advantage. And if you don't have the job description, then a lot of times we'll work with you. And this is where the retainer would come in too, where we would work with you because of our time, and my recruiters, about 80% of them are on straight commission. So I have to be very mindful as to who I'm going to partner with. But that's where we would help you write the job description.
gotcha. And tease that out a little bit. Okay. I can only imagine just having all of that expertise in the psychology background that you and so many of your recruiters have, just being able to parse through what people are saying to get to the heart of it. I would not want to be on the other side of that analysis, to be quite honest with you. No.
Well,
But,
a lot of people, we have a lot of clientele, Katelin, that we work with that, I work with CEOs, I work with VPs, I work with HR, we work with talent acquisition, we work with operational managers, we work with anyone and everyone that's the decision maker, business owners there, and we work with recruiters and HR. And I mean, there are people that definitely have been in our business and understand the intensity and the labor that we go through in order to get the right individual. So it is a process. And again, that's why you're hiring somebody like us, because we're efficient, we're the experts, and it's very time consuming.
yeah, I think anyone who's ever tried to hire anyone would definitely agree with you. So, what would you say to people? And this dovetails into my next question, just around misconceptions about staffing and recruiting. But what would you say to people who are concerned that they go with a staffing agency and they get a new, full-time employee out of it, but they're worried that they just paid this, retainer fee and all these fees only to have this person only last a few months before they, don't work out or leave the company. How do you combat that fear?
And that's another great question. That's why we have contracts and we have agreements. And there is a guarantee, definitely. We usually do anywhere from, depending on the role, we'll do a 45 to 90-day guarantee. Now the fee is non-refundable, but having the work ethic we have, we will replace at no charge if it's in that guarantee. And even if it's outside of that guarantee, a lot of times we'll replace too. But we're not, and I'm very vocal about this, we're not in the replacement business at all. So it's very rare when we have to do a replacement. And believe me, my recruiters, they are definitely screening these individuals to almost say to them, if you aren't going to make a long-term commitment, if you're not planning on building a career with ABC company, then let us know and we can look at some other opportunities that are going to be a better fit. So we try our very best. Katelin, our pet peeve, and it's something that we just can't control, is that we can't control behavior or personality. What we can control is giving you the right resumes, qualifying this individual, finding out who they are with reference checking, with testing, with everything that we do imaginable to make sure it's going to be the right candidate. But we cannot control personality and behavior. So do we get a bad apple once in a while? Yes. And once in a while we'll get a bad apple. And, it's again, I think a rarity that those people slip through the corner, but sometimes they do. Yeah.
Never say never. Yeah.
But typically, if there's going to be a problem, we will know that there's a problem before the client will. And the reason and how we do this is once we place somebody, we just don't place them and say, okay, see you later. Great. We will follow up with them to say, hey, how do you like working at da da da? And we'll share that feedback with the client. Plus, we'll call the client to make sure they're happy with the candidate. We're staying in touch with these partners on both sides.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's I would almost classify that under the customer success bucket. Although that also sounds to me like you're somewhat of a therapist, making sure like, all right, are you liking the job? How's it going? And, calling the client, all right, how are they working out? And just making sure all of the stars align. That's pretty incredible. I did not realize there was that aftercare component. Very cool.
Yeah. We do feel like sometimes we're mothers, therapists. Yeah. All the above. We use our sense of humor, definitely. But I was an ex-therapist, so definitely. But
that leads into it. Yeah.
That's where the analyzation comes in. So, yes.
So what other misconceptions do people commonly, have just about using a staffing or a recruiting agency that, we should talk about and maybe combat a little bit?
I think the misconception is that I think people who have not engaged into a partnership feel like it might be, when they hear about the retainer of, 3,000, 2,000, 5,000, 1,000, whatever it's going to be. They feel like, oh boy, that's really a lot. And I don't know if I can really spend that or want to spend that. And we try to say, there's no pressure. We're not high pressured whatsoever. It has to be a win-win for you as a company, for us as an agency, and for the candidate. So it's a three-way street. But we'll say to people that haven't engaged into an agency, it's like an investment. So it's almost like being, if you will, with a financial advisor or a stock market or whatever you want to say. And, there's risk involved walking across the street. And of course, I'm being funny here, but there's a risk involved no matter which way you go. So we say this: would you rather have this job open another 3 months, another 6 months, or would you rather retain us and get somebody in and fulfill that void? And most people, 95%, will look at the business sense side and they'll agree and say, oh, yes, this job has been open now for a month or two. And this is why companies also, even though they may have an HR team, even though they may have a team of recruiters in, they will still hire us because for whatever reason, they're not finding the right person on the inside. So they need to go on the outside. And it could be as simple as that they're so busy that they're fulfilling other roles. There's no negativity there. But whatever the reason is, we don't care. We will roll up our sleeves and we'll get the job done. And the other thing too, Katelin, I really want to put out there, and this is where the honesty comes in the relationship. If one of your colleagues gave us orders and we did not have the right network, we didn't have the right candidate available, we would let you know that. So we would tell you up front, you know what? We're not finding ABC, but here's some other options. So we work with everyone on that. So that's something else that I think we do really, really well, is that we really know who we have, what we have, and every day we get new candidates coming in the pipeline. Every day we're placing candidates. So we're like the stock market, we're always going up. And most of the time we're not going down, thank goodness, but sometimes we do. So, it's dealing with people.
Yeah, yeah. And I can only imagine, I mean, this was years ago, but I think I was hiring, it was like a fleet of interns. So this is a small talent pool. This is just interns. And, we're not looking for a ton of experience. And even just that, and going through and reviewing and just reading the resumes and doing all of the pre-screening interviews, it takes so much time. And I know that with AI and everything, that's become a huge part of the hiring conversation, because now we've got all of these sort of AI firewalls in place that are doing the pre-screenings and trying to cut through what can be 100, 200, 300 plus resumes flooding into your company for a certain position. So what are you seeing in terms of AI? Are you guys using it? And do you think it's helping the staffing world and helping companies, find the right people? Or do you think there's a little bit more harm being done than good?
Well, that's a loaded question, but for sure. The AI market, I will tell you, I have a love-hate relationship with them. I've got a love relationship with them with the stock market, that all my stocks are going through the roof now with AI. So that I love. I do my recruiters use the AI? Sure they do. We're very innovative. We're going to hop on to anything and everything to get the job done. Well, yeah. But there's nothing like in person. There's nothing like doing these kinds of conversations. And, AI is not for everyone. It's very new still. And I shouldn't say it's very new. It's been around for a while. But in terms of recruiting, it's a newer feature out there. And, some people just really want more of the personal effect. My sales reps, for instance, they still go door to door to see customers on a weekly, monthly basis. So, AI can serve its purpose, but it's not humans being face to face, as you know. So,
yeah.
I mean, and so there's a lot of good hype on it, and I think in certain industries it works well. In other industries it doesn't work at all. So so I am constantly speaking about this topic to CEOs and C-level, execs that I work with and business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Oh,
even service some AI companies.
oh, I
So
bet.
we have AI companies too. So that's the other side of it. There's the AI companies that we enjoy partnering with, But yeah, I think it's a very personal decision.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
I think it really depends on, I think it's industry driven.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that makes total sense, right? And I'm trying to think, okay, if I am in the print and mail space, maybe I've got some labor shortages that already exist, or I know I've got some folks coming up on retirement. So I'm trying to get ahead of the game and start to plan
Yeah.
for all of that. And, I don't have the time to go out and try and hunt down new recruits, or, maybe I've got a couple people in HR, but they're doing 50,000 other things. And so what if I want to dip my toe into this world and go with an agency, there's so many options out there. So are there any red flags that, I should be looking out for as I try and find an agency to work with that's going to be a good fit?
Sure. Yes. And to compare me to other competitors, I would ask certain questions and do your research. How long has the company been in business for?
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes in my world, it can be a revolving door, with, because it is a hard business. And recruiters can come and go. So, and sales reps can come and go. So I have been at this, like I said, for 35 years, and I would definitely see what person's going to be assigned to your account and how long have they been with the company for. And I would just kind of interview the companies that you're looking at. I would interview the agencies.
Okay. No, I mean, that makes sense. Just really figure out, all right, am I just going to get handed off to, the junior agent who's just coming up in this business, and probably asking, have they placed anyone in print and mail, and what does, their Rolodex and experience look like?
That's exactly it. That's great. You hit it right on. Is what's your experience in print and
Hmm.
mail, and who have you worked with before? Maybe. And sometimes you can't get all those answers, because of confidentiality. But I still think it's to your benefit to interview the agency. And you can look up, just like everybody. I mean, there's reviews going on and things of that nature. Anybody who's interested in working with us that's on right now, I'm happy to give out references. You can talk with anybody and everybody. We still have a whole portfolio that we're very grateful for, with letters of recommendations from all sorts of different companies. So we still get that too, which is, very, very nice. And
Yeah.
we have won the National Leadership Award, Women in Business, now from
Hi.
2018 to 2024. So, we love that feature. We love that our door is open to every ethnic race out there.
Yeah.
And again, provided that they partner accordingly, that's what we look for. But they have to have the right skill set. They have to have the right personality. They have to have the right work ethic. We don't look for job hoppers. And something else that happens in my industry, unfortunately, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is that sometimes you'll have a bad experience with somebody in my world. And
Yeah.
I totally understand that. You get a bad experience, it puts a bad taste in your mouth. You don't want to go to another agency again. But that's part of really looking at why this experience happened too, you know. So I would be looking at that as well, and if there was a bad placement, how did that agency react to it? Did that agency react to it to where they came through and they tried to resolve it for you? Or did you not hear from them again?
Right,
that,
exactly.
that happens, right? That happens too. But we're in it for the long haul. And I think I mentioned this earlier. We're into having what we call long-term successful partnerships. And we're looking, once we prove ourselves, which we have no problem proving ourselves, we're looking to become your exclusive agency, which is a majority of our relationships where we're your number one, your go-to person.
Oh, wow. Okay. I love that. I mean, that's what I tell folks on, I work with different clients and we're always talking about, all right, what are the red flags when you're evaluating different software vendors? So very different industry, but the questions are so similar. I always tell people, I'm like, ask about their support team. How many people do they have on their support team? Is this going to be someone where you send in a support ticket and 2 weeks later they get back to you? Or do you have a phone number to call and someone who's going to pick up on the other end of that phone when something goes wrong? Because it's one thing to, have a great relationship at the start, but just like any relationship, dating, marriage, what have you, employment, it's all about the long-term success. And
that's right. No, it really is. It's about, how you connect with people, and I think how you build that trust and that partnership. And it's not something that comes automatic. I think it's where you have to really establish it from day one and you build on it. Actions speak louder. That's my bottom line. So, do what you say you're going to do. And that's something that we're very big on. If we say we're going to send you resumes today, we're going to send you resumes. And if for some reason we can't meet that deadline, then you're going to hear from us that we're so sorry we can't meet this deadline, and you'll have resumes tomorrow. So, your word is very important. So we look for people, and we look for also company partners, just like candidate partners, to respond. So that's another big issue out there, is the response, is the communication. So if I see that we have a candidate or we have a company client, which is very rare, and also even on the candidate side, because we establish that up front. But if we find that there isn't the response or the respect of being that professional response time period, then we're not going to engage into the partnership. It's just that part is very black and white.
Yeah. And it has to be, or else, you just end up chasing people around. And I think hiring challenges and finding the right labor pool is too important to just, hope for the best and, not take it as seriously as one should, right? Yes. All right. So I cannot believe this was the fastest 38 minutes that we've ever gone through. I can't believe it's already been a half an hour. But I know. So I think we should, unfortunately, I think we got to start wrapping it up. So maybe one thing we could close it off with is, what would you hope that, my audience, the print and mail community could take away from today's conversation? What's one piece of advice?
Well, I hope they can take away that there's still a lot of hope out there, that they don't have to feel desperate or destitute to make the wrong hire, that there are resources out there like me. But I'm being sincere too. I mean, I'm laughing because, I have to laugh. But in all honesty, that, if you don't partner and get out there and try some of these resources that we're talking about, how will you know? So I think just taking the first step is the most important.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness. Chills. There's still hope.
I never give up hope on anything, and I'm talking professionally as well as personally.
Definitely. And I think that there's just so much that can be taken away from that because we're in such a shifting landscape in print and mail. Customer expectations are changing. The labor force is, aging out. We're, embracing new technologies and constantly changing. And, that means we're exploring what other tools are in our tool belt. And I think the same has to go for hiring. And I'm so glad you were able to come on and, explain this whole world of staffing and recruiting. It was an incredible conversation. And, I hope that the print and mail industry can, be more aware of all of the different tools and resources out there. So thank you so much for joining me today.
It's really been a pleasure. And I just had a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah,
If there's,
absolutely.
if there's anybody that's listening that, would like to talk with me further, to have a meeting just to see together if there's anything that we can help you with, I'm very open to doing that. So I don't know if there's anybody that's on that would like to do that, or if everybody just wants to digest everything that's been said.
Definitely. Well, let's make sure we'll put your contact information in the show notes and make sure that gets distributed out there because, I think it's at least worthwhile to have the conversation. If you've got a couple of job openings that have just been collecting dust, why not go and talk to these other resources that are out there and, get some advice or at least see what the options are. Because I'm all about being more efficient, and my God, you're nothing if not efficient. So people can take advantage, right? But no, this was fantastic, and I'm excited to see what this next wave, this future generation in the print and mail industry looks like because we've got some great folks coming out of university. Got to meet a bunch of them at Printing United this past October, and but that doesn't mean that's all that's available. I'm sure there's other folks that you're plucking in and putting into these different roles. So it's like, all right, let's really get a well-rounded workforce going here.
Yeah, definitely. And we love, by the way, college graduates. So we work with a lot of college graduates, and we work with people that have the experience and have been in the business for a long time and what have you. And, we have young people that are middle-aged people, I should say. I've got a few people right now that I'm just thinking about that are coming out of print that are leaving the company because, the owner is closing down or whatever the case is. So I know we've got a couple of people that we're looking to place right now that have the industry experience. So
so print and mail, she's got them.
Yes, exactly. All right, Katelin. Well, thank you so very much, and happy holidays to everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Until next time, goodbye.